So today we're going to talk about Valorant pro teams trolling, and to do so, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a round of Valorant, and I want you to try and work out which team is trolling and why are they trolling.
It's capable to actually challenge. No, on Pearl, this is CNET's playground.
Lots of info off that knife to open the round.
That's the second time, too. The first one, they got 3 suppressed inside of Street. Here 4 at the beginning, but they did get that orb at least.
Oh, and I like how Navi played that too. The information that they got on A allows them to take so much space down B long. They just grabbed the orb down B long. They've taken all that space. They've left CNET here. It's very nicely handled.
The tug of war between the macro games of these two teams so far, actually very interesting, you're right. 1 for 1 on the orbs, and Loud know they don't have that space, so they have to go recommit towards the A side. Another split.
Here the flash pop. Xiao feeling some of the pressure. There's power in numbers for Loud. Question is, how much more can they find? Navi still have 2 members that are playing backside. Courtesy of Zipan and Tugetsu. And the spam through off the C's is really nice. We've got something on our hands here, folks.
Les is heating up.
It's just CNET and Angel that are left. And you remember, you go back to the beginning of the round, they were the ones who were opportunistic in their space gathering.
Yeah, and with the way that Navi like to buy here, I'm maybe considering a save instantly here, because Angel's who gets to save on this attempt at the anti-eco, so they'll be able to buy next and CNET with a Vandal too. Yeah, he's backing off. Angel's going to keep this Bulldog, pick it up, and that's still going to result in a good buy, but Loud just rip apart this anti-eco.
And he did so with nothing but Marshall in the hands of Baspas, and I mean, he didn't really do a ton of it, maybe a little bit of damage, but yeah, it was all the pistols.
And they're chasing down the guns too. This could be critical.
Let's see if they can grab any of it.
One more.
And so I'm sure most of you realized that Navi were perhaps the team that was trolling because they lost the round, but did you figure out why? Because in my mind, it all has to do with how Navi go about buying. They go for the FPX buy that they invented here, where you have 2 pistols and 3 guns. But why is this trolling? Well, let's go on a bit of a history lesson first to Masters Copenhagen back in the grand final here, FPX versus PaperX. FPX, who are now Navi, the same team, are again doing this same buy you see here with, you know, the rifles and the ghosts here, the 2 ghosts and 3 guns. And the idea behind that buy is that as long as you can keep those 3 guns, you can then get a bonus round that looks like this, where you have 4 full rifles, right? The people with ghosts can now buy rifles, but you also have enough money to then buy even if you lose. But some of you who watch the channel more regularly might be thinking, wait a minute, TMV's done videos about these before, and he said that it's a really good strategy, so why all of a sudden is it trolling? Well, it all has to do with what side of the map you are playing. Because when you do it on the attack side, I think it's the optimal way of playing. I think every single team should be doing it. But on the defense side, it's not quite the same story, and we'll get into why. The first reason is that when you're on the attacking side, you're just more likely to have more money. You get money from the spike plant, everyone gets 300 credits, so when you do that on the pistol round, that's a 300 extra credits for everyone. When you do it on the second round, that's more credits for everyone as well, so you're more likely to be able to buy rifles in that second round anyway, as opposed to the defending side, who are more likely to be getting Bulldogs and Spectres, but just in general, your economy is going to be in a better spot. But the much bigger reason why this is good on the attacking side versus defensive side is that you travel in groups and clumps much more on the attack side than the defense side, because that means that if someone dies on your attacking round with a rifle in hand, your team is much more likely to pick it up, which means that you haven't really lost a gun. In fact, 2 players can die and you probably won't lose anything. Only those pistols and those light shields that maybe those players had. But on the defensive side, as we saw in the Navi versus Loud round, you're not going to be in clumps. Everyone's going to have their own little angle to defend, right? Everyone's going to be there. So this is exactly what we see in this round, that when Xiao, you know, turns into 3 people here of the attackers and he dies with his Bulldog, this is not a gun you can pick up. This is not a gun you are going to get. In fact, it's much more likely that your opponents will get that gun instead of you, which means that now you've just given them a gun and all of a sudden they've now got a gun, but 2 of our players don't have a gun, which puts us in a really, really bad spot. And that means that, you know, Zipan gets caught in a pretty bad position right here, and he ends up dying as well. And all of a sudden it's a 5v3 and we've got 2 ghosts and the round is over. And also, as the defenders, you're not going to be choosing where the attackers take those fights a lot of time. So maybe they just run into your 2 players with a ghost. And if that happens, then they don't have better guns than your opponents at that point. Maybe they just die and you end up in a 3v5. Sure, you'll still have a gun advantage, but it's still a 3v5. And there's another big problem that can happen as well, as we saw in the Furia versus Cloud9 game.
Contra 4 en esa primera ronda. Pero bueno, vamos entonces con la segunda ronda, que ya rapidito, cambio de armamento, superioridad para el equipo de Furia. Empiezan entrando fuerte al otro side, el side de A que empieza a tener peligro. Ya lanzamos por acá lo que vienen siendo habilidades de Rage para tratar de cortar el camino. Avance por parte de Oxy para tratar de descontarse. Lleva a Musera que descontaba. Ojito con Conan por ahí ubicadito en una esquina. Alcanzaba a descontar, pero Oxy se llevaba a la dueña del lado oscuro para el descuento por parte de Cloud9.
Retoma que tiene que sacar rápidamente Fury. Como vemos en esta segunda ronda, no hay economía. La escuadra de Cloud9 decide forzar rápidamente con la Bulldog, ladrándole Havoc. A ver, con la Rey buscando información, 3 balas, pero llega en estos momentos. Le corre como yo corro el arranque, Whippy, que se lleva rápidamente a Havoc. Condición de 4 para 2, solamente ahora queda uno. ¡Ahí está! ¡Cómo pega! ¡Cómo pega!
And the problem is that if your opponents decide to force like Cloud9 did here, I mean, Cloud9 have a literally better buy, you might argue, than Furia in this round when they also went for this FPX buy on defense. And of course, in this situation as well, when you're on the defensive side, your opponent is on the attack side, which means that if they planted the spike in the pistol round, they're also much more likely to force on you anyway. And right now, to me, there is kind of one team who has figured this out, and that's Fnatic, right? They are a team that goes for that FPX buy on attack, but as you can see here in their game, this is the second round here against 8th Division, round 14. They won the defensive pistol, and you see that they all have something, right? They all have a gun of a sort, and that means that there just isn't that massive weakness that the FPX buy might have on defense. And so for me, the FPX buy on attack is an amazing idea, and probably every pro team should be doing it. And we've seen teams like, you know, old FPX, now Na'Vi, Fnatic adopted it as well. They win a lot of the bonus rounds because they do that. But on the defensive side, as we've kind of seen on this video, it just doesn't quite work out the same. You're taking a much bigger risk, in my opinion, of actually losing the round. And your reward probably isn't as great either as it is on the attacking side because your defensive economy isn't as good. So instead of buying that second round Vandal or Phantom, it's more likely to be a Bulldog or Spectre. So it's kind of just a higher risk for not nearly quite the same reward. And there's other things to point out as well that, you know, if you are Fnatic and you're going for this kind of buy, having these kind of guns on your defensive bonus round isn't as bad because on the defensive side, whilst you won't choose where the attackers go, you can often choose the range of fight, right? You're not going to play a Guardian on that third round the same way you would a Judge or a Spectre or a Stinger, right? So you can put yourself as a defender on the part of the map where it's going to be most efficient to defend with that weapon. And so that is my final takeaway. Don't do the FPX buy on defense. You're probably just better off buying normally, like, you know, you would in any kind of ranked game on the defensive side. But on the attack side, it definitely is a very potent idea that you should probably be using a lot of the time.